myself. I'm Jayesh. I've been working as a software engineer in the IT industry for about 13, 15, somewhat years. I have done my master's in Chico State, USA, and I've been working for various companies in USA as well. Um, Today, we are focused on how engineers can move forward from being an engineer to launching their own startup. In that journey, we will discuss what actually engineering means for a software engineer and how they can move up in that ladder. And also, after having gathered enough experience or after having gathered enough, how you say, capital, can you move forward to launch your own startup? And what are the skills that you would require in this particular journey for you to become a entrepreneur or a CEO of a company by yourself as a software engineer? Uh, with that in mind, I would like to invite Amit to introduce himself and talk about himself a little bit. Amit?
Hey Jayesh, yeah, thanks for having me. So hey everyone, my name is Amit. I'm software engineer with over 8 years of experience in software engineering space. Born and brought up in India, and currently I'm living in Ontario, Canada. Quick touch base about what I'm currently working on. I'm building an open source product which is alternative to Lemon Squeezy affiliate program. If you don't know what Lemon Squeezy is, it's an all-in-one platform for SaaS businesses, which includes payment, subscription, taxes, and etc. And affiliate program is one of the feature provided by the Lemon Squeezy. So right now I'm working on that piece. It's going to be a totally open source, so anyone can see the code. It's going to be in our GitHub repository. Maybe Jayesh or maybe Gangesh will share that GitHub URL later to you guys. The tech stack we are using is, right now the product is in the development phase, and the name of the product is Mango Squeezy. No brainer for me to come up with that name, because it's kind of an alternative for the lemon squeezy. So I was like, okay, Mango Squeezy might be the best option for me. Anyways, talking about the tech stack. So we started implementing as a remix, which is the React framework. But right now we are migrating from the remix using the Next.js, which is another React framework. There are Supabase, and also there are a sort of AI we are using, which is the Open AI model. And also there are a few other things that we are using. So it might be our best option. So you guys can take a look into the code base. You can get a sense of it. So yeah, that's pretty much me about me.
Okay, sounds good. Amit, I would be interested in understanding, for the sake of our audience, when you became an engineer as opposed to becoming founding your own item and idea. I would like to understand or explain to the audience, in your engineering journey, what has been your luck factor? What has been your dedication factor? What was the idea that drove you to this is what I want to do in software engineering? And once you landed there, what were your points of inclinations or something that attracted you inside software engineering? If you could tell our audience about that, maybe they'll understand what is software engineering all about, and then those points will connect to the actual incubation or startup idea.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I would say it's a funny story, how I started as a computer engineering and then end up with this engineering role as a software developer. So when I was pursuing an engineering career back home in India, so I was like, okay, so what is the promising stream that will help me to get a job in the industry? So I was not sure that I want to end up with the computer engineering or maybe, electronics or something like that. There was nothing in top of my head. So I end up as a computer engineer. So until the third year of my engineering career, I was not sure what I want to do with my career, to be very honest. And however, I was know that in the fourth year of my engineering career, there are companies coming to for the recruitment, for the placement. And I was like, okay, if I want to get a job in campus rather than searching for the job outside the campus, so I have to do something. So I have to come up with, learn some programming knowledge, maybe, that might be helpful to get into the job. So in third year of my engineering career, I was like, okay, so let's try to learn a Java as a programming language. And also while learning the Java as a programming language, I was like, okay, okay, so why not, do some certification that might be helpful, so I'm learning some theory knowledge, try to get some certification. Those certification might be helpful to get into the job, kind of a added bonus point. So I did Oracle certified as a programmer, and during this process, I realized that this is what I'm loving it. So learning as a Java as a programming language, implementing a block of code, coming up with a solution from the problem statement that I'm working on. So those process was making me happy. So and then I realized, okay, so this is something I need. So I started looking into the GitHub repo, starting going for the event to get more knowledge, so to enhance my career growth, maybe a skill set as well. So those are the bonus point, I would say, being in the same mindset of the networking, so they are also in the same space. I can learn from those guys. And then eventually from third year of my engineering career until now, so I'm pretty much happy, what I'm doing right now, as a software developer. And during this process, so I worked on the different verticals. So in India, I worked as a software developer, as a full stack engineer, Java as a programming language. If you guys are aware about the EJB framework, so JSP on the front end side, the backend was kind of a Java object-oriented language. After 2 years, I was like, okay, I need to explore something more. So coming to Canada, I pursue as a post-graduation and working on different verticals right now. I was like, okay, back home, I do have a Java as a programming knowledge. Why not try some different vertical? So I started learning data engineer, where you extract, transform, and load all the informations into the data lake, which might be a Hadoop, Kafka, or whatever, those infrastructure that we are. So after 1 year, working as a data engineer in RBC. RBC is nothing but a Royal Bank of Canada. It's a bank in Canada. So I end up as a data engineer. After I think 6 to 8 months, I realized, so data engineer, I think that is not meant for me. So I was not enjoying. And I was like, okay, why not, go back to the same role that I was working earlier, as a Java, as a full stack engineer. But then I realized, so there are people talking about JavaScript or React as a framework, or, React as a library. So I was kind of, curious person. I want to learn something new, so I can get some challenges, learn something new, and then build some awesome product. Might be a best fit for the consumer, or maybe for organization, whatever it is. So I started learning React, and then I switched from RBC, one team to another team, where they were working as a full stack JavaScript engineer, not as a Java. So on the front end side, they were using React. On the back end side, they were using Node.js. So from that point of time, right now, I'm fully as a JavaScript full stack engineer. Then I realized, okay, so I started my career as a Java full stack engineer, then end up as a data engineer, and now as a JavaScript engineer. So I know my expertise, so what tech stack might be a best fit for me, or maybe, I'm enjoying what I'm trying to do. So I'm not kind of a tech agnostic, I love to learn as many skill set I love to learn, and then I can realize, okay, so this is meant for me, maybe this programming language. So eventually after this one, after 4 years in the PayPal, I work as a full stack engineer. And during this period, I think I would say I learned two main things. One is improving my soft skills, gaining some leadership quality, talking with the stakeholders, demo about your product to the leadership, stakeholders, VP of the PayPal, So that helped me to gain a confidence, also, and to talk with the people, because coming from India and then working in Canada, it's kind of a different culture. So sometimes it becomes a barrier, so if you are talking with different team members who are not from your own country, it becomes, if you talk something, there might be a question comes to your mind, okay, what he will think, or maybe a she will person will think. So it's kind of a barrier. So coming out of your own comfortable zone, so that might help me. Yeah.
Right. That's a very interesting journey that you talked about, coming from a Java developer to then data engineering, Apache Spark, what have you, Hadoop or whatever that you explored in your career path. and then you moved on to JavaScripting, which is a not Java-like language, a little bit different now that I've introduced TypeScript in it. But then again, the construct of that language is a little bit different than object-oriented C#, Java, something like that. I was also curious to understand when you were going through this journey of software engineering, when you switched from Java to data engineer to JavaScripting, what were the ideas that you picked up from Java, data engineering, and then now that you like in the JavaScript that are currently helping you navigate in this startup journey of yours? Now, I think you mentioned your lemon squeezy or the mango squeezy product is based on JavaScripting / React product.
Yeah.
So I understand that it probably involves a lot of TypeScripting and the JavaScripting. However, there are some constructs that you must have liked in Java or data engineering that you're probably thinking about implementing in your Mango Squeezy product. So I'm curious to understand, what is it that you've liked over the years? What is it that you not like and you don't want to incorporate if you want to talk about those ideas?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, to be honest. So I would say I think Java is becoming it's like a object oriented, more like a class based, where you put all the state and the behavior in the class based as an object oriented programming language. But when it comes with a JavaScript, it's more about the functional, functional programming, I would say. So there are similar ways where we can write in the Java as a programming language. But however, we can write classes as well using TypeScript, as you said, also classes in JavaScript after the ES6. But those are not the classes as we are talking in terms of Java as a programming language. So maybe I would say, coming as a Java as a programming language, as an object-oriented person, I pretty much liking about, as a functional guy, a functional programming. So writing a small block of code and then ship those code, so isolated, separated codes or the functions that we are writing, and then those are interlinked with each other, rather than writing the entire classes, which might be a cohesive, and then having all the state and the behavior sitting in the same class. So I think I'm not class-based person. I might be a functional-based programming kind of person that I really like to work on. And also the JavaScript, I like the JavaScript about this. It's kind of community-based. So if you are on Twitter, or maybe if you are somewhere in the meetup where people are talking about more about the JavaScript, there are kind of a supportive community that comes across you. Or maybe I came up with those mindset people that it might be evolved me to come from as a Java, as a object-oriented person to into the JavaScript, because I'm as a full stack engineer, so working on the front end side, also on the back end side. So front end is kind of a React, which is nothing but a JavaScript under the hood, and on the back end side is kind of a Node.js. So same ecosystem which is under the umbrella of the JavaScript, so I don't have to worry about more about the object oriented. Maybe down the line, if the project or maybe a product become more scalable, we might need some microservices where we are implementing a Java or maybe a Rust based API or anything, so that's a different part of the story. But as an initial starting point, I think JavaScript is kind of the thing that I would love to start with.
Was there any founder, any CEO, entrepreneur likes to understand his core strength points and what are his weak points?
Yeah.
And sometimes weak points are not necessarily his weak points, but something that he does not have interest in or she does not have interest in, and they want to ignore that piece of evolution of technology. So I think you mentioned that something about the data engineering was not for you. Was there any incidents that suggested to you like, maybe I don't want to do data engineering, or that's not the field of interest for me, or maybe that you identify like, this is not my strength? So in understanding one as a developer, engineer, or founder, when you went through that journey of identifying whether you like something or whether you don't like something, or whether it's your strength or not strength, what was the experience in that data engineering piece that you talked about?
I think so whenever you are working on any project, or maybe any skill set, you should understand what your strength is. So if you know your strength, then only you are going to give an input for your team, So because the most important thing is make make a promising impact within your team and organization. So that might be a kind of, a brownie points for you. Maybe it will help you to enhance your skill set. So when I was working as a data engineer, I realized that I was not giving any input to an organization or maybe to the team, So basically, I was working as a, the someone is assigning me a task and I'm working on the task, and that's it, done. That's my job, So there are no area where I'm identifying, so this task can be improved, or maybe, we can enhance, or maybe it might be a beneficial. We can take a different approach to implement this task. There is someone is telling you, you have to implement this way. Then I was like, okay, yeah, I think, yeah, that makes sense. You are saying then it might be a right way of doing these things. So then I realized, so this is not who I am, So if someone is telling me you have to implement this way and that's the right way, rather than, putting your own efforts, or maybe, or enhancing your own skill set that you are working on. And then if you're not enjoying what you are doing, then it's not meant for you, I believe. Because at one point maybe you can do, because it's kind of, a fresh new job, you're earning or maybe getting salary for what you have been paid for. Yeah, that's okay. But down the lane, after maybe 1 week or 1 month, you are going to be end up, into the situation where I was, and was like, okay, oh no, you have to switch this one, because you can sustain maybe for 1 week, 1 month, but after that, you're it becomes monotonous. So I think I would love to give you an analogy. So it's kind of a ikigai. I'm not sure if you guys are aware about the ikigai. It's a Japanese term, so where you should know about your passion. It's really between what you love, so it might be an easy task for you, and you have to find out between the easy task and then the difficult one. If the task is easy, definitely you are going to get bored at one point, because it's kind of, a easy task. I don't want to do this one, so it's not meant for me. And if it is a difficult task, at one point you are going to give up, because it's not, you're not accomplishing what the task has been given. So you have to balance between this one, identify what are the things that you are promising and then loving it. So once you identify what your strength is, I think that will help you. So for those reasons, I want to try different verticals in my own journey, because to identify where I can be, um, come up with my own strength. So Java as a full stack engineer, then data engineer, and now as a JavaScript engineer. Because down the line, no matter if you start your own startup, there is no kind of, a programming language that the startup should start with. For example, if I want to start a startup, I should start as a Java programming language, build my all product as a Java as a programming language. That doesn't make sense. When you start your own startup, you have to build fast as possible, get some feedback from your customer, build fast, be in your own comfortable zone, so you can build faster. So I think, during this different verticals, I realized that JavaScript might be a best fit for me. I can ship fast as product as I can. Also, eventually, it's helping me, and I'm loving what I'm doing eventually. So for those reasons, yeah, I understand my strength. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, that's good to understand. And so you identified your strength over the time, and I sensed the feeling that you were interested in paving the path as opposed to someone giving you a task. You were more interested in identifying what else can be improved in here, and I would like to move in that direction. And if there is any role out there that allows me to do that, finding my own paths, finding improvements, I would be more happy to do that. And so then you moved up to the JavaScript position that you talked about. And in that position, you were also given opportunity to speak with VPs or to make presentations, to demo your solutions that you built up. And I think that's what made you happy. Last point I would like to talk about over here is in terms of developing communication with those presentations, demos, and actually acquiring feedback from the users, or in your case, your customers, or it could be your other teammates. what were some key areas that you thought were interesting for you that you didn't think would come up, and they were like, oh, I think I did not realize this could happen as well. This is surprising. Would you like to share any of those events from your experience in the past?
Yeah, I think so working at PayPal, so we are working with a team of engineer with the different countries. One is from United States, India, Canada, and Mexico. So each one coming with their own time zone. So the challenge becomes, whenever there are strict deadlines, so you have to ship fast as possible. And each engineer are so responsible and come up with their own ownership. So it's kind of a learning opportunity from each others. So whenever they are coming up, so let me give you an example. So we implement, we are 4 to 5 team members, I think, a team, and then each team falls under one umbrella, which is the core PayPal team. And each team members, we develop, publish, and build npm packages. So those npm packages can be used across the PayPal. It's not open source, and those npm packages can be used within their own hosting application to enhance the product. So now the question is, whenever there are any issues or bugs, we have to communicate with each other, and it becomes blocker. So what they do, what I have understands, so working remotely with a different time zone, they used to, especially from the people from the India, so they because there is a huge time zone difference when we compare between United States and Canada. So the engineers from India, they used to come up with creating a video, explaining what the problem that they are occurring, and what are the issues, what are the gaps that they are. So the sense of the ownership and the responsibilities and providing the verbose information about the issues and products. So that made me realize, so this is kind of, a small thing. It's not a big, kind of innovation that we are creating and video and explaining about this thing. We can do anything in a text format as well, or maybe writing an email, but explaining something more clear, so that understand, okay, why not we can use the same technique in while reviewing the code, in the GitHub repo. So I can explain what my code is doing, so it might help for the other reviewers to understand what I have been implemented, so maybe it can help them to review as fast as possible, rather than creating more backlogs. So, and then we are going to end up with so many backlogs of pending GitHub reviews that we have to, and we have to review it, and then it will also push back to ship the code or maybe deploy the code. And so the sense of ownership that I've been learned from those people, from each and every team members, it's kind of a great opportunity to learn from those ones. And also yeah, and also during the there is a bi-weekly, I think, yeah, I remember, it's a bi-weekly meeting where each team member, cross team members are educating about the future. So each team members, sometimes work in silos. So we have no idea what other team members are working, or maybe what are the tech stack they are using, or maybe kind of a programming language or the code standard that they use. So we educate each other's, it's kind of, again, a learning opportunity for each other's, to get some sense about how things are working in an organization.
Right. I think you like the idea of somebody owning to a problem and getting to the solution. And then you moved on. Let's talk about the Mango Squeezy, where you own the stakes, all the stakes. And then what is, I would like to understand, what is Mango Squeezy solving, and what is Mango Squeezy achieving for its users right now?
Okay, yeah. So right now, what happens, in a traditional way, so Mango Squeezy is nothing but an affiliate marketing platform. So what it does, where businesses connect with affiliates and influencers, and those influencers, will sell the product for the businesses, and in return, they will get some commission based on the product that they sell. So that's that's the earning opportunity for affiliates, and for businesses, they can grow their sales. Now, the traditional way of affiliate marketing program is, there are payment processors like Stripe, PayPal, and there are Lemon Squeezy. there are certain commission and the processing fee, which will start from 2.5% to maybe 5% to 10%, depending upon your payment request. So one, if there is an international payment, so there will be an extra charge on the top of that base processing fee. And also, if there are chargeback, what do I mean by chargeback? So if some customer try to pay some product from a business using a specific payment processor, in our example, let's say Stripe, and then after a couple of days, that customer will call their Visa credit person, or maybe a Visa company, and they will say that, "Oh, I did not purchase this product, so I want to, give me back my money." So the Visa company has to provide those money back to that customer. And now the Visa company is going to charge the Stripe, because again, that infrastructure cost and all the remaining cost is involved. Now the Stripe will charge to the business person, because the business person was responsible, and they will charge between $25. Again, the price range from $25, $50 to $15. Now what we are trying to do, we are using cryptocurrency in this situation. So there won't be a traditional way of fiat currency. Now, the consumer can pay the product in fiat currency. And what do I mean by fiat currency? In USD or CAD or INR, and those currency will get converted into the cryptocurrency. Right now, we are only supporting XRP right now, and we are built on top of Ripple blockchain. So we are using XRP for payment transaction. So the consumer will pay in fiat currency, or they have an option to pay in cryptocurrency. The business will get in cryptocurrency. So right now, if there are any chargeback, the blockchain mechanism or the infrastructure will take care of that one. So we don't have to worry about those. And also the processing fee from 5% to 10% is almost negligible, because the gas fee of this Ripple blockchain is 0.3 times 0.15, which is, again, close to zero, you can say. So everything is kind of, free of cost. Processing fee, the pricing model will based on the subscription model. We are still figuring out what would be the pricing model. But yeah, that's the core concept of it. No chargeback, no processing fee, easy for the businesses. They can easily connect for the affiliators and the influencers who are from different social medias, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. But right now we are only supporting YouTube.
If you would talk about some of the challenges that you faced in the startup industry or your own startup, what would be two highlight points that you would talk about?
Yeah, I would say, I think the two most thing, coming as a tech engineer, I used to think that implementing the product is kind of a more challenging, and you can easily sell the product. Once the product is built, you can easily sell the product. But down the line, I realized, implementing the product is not that difficult. You can easily implement the product, but selling the product to getting the first customer, it becomes a challenging, because sometimes being a background as a tech engineer, sometimes it's really hard to explain someone talking about what your product is doing, because most of the time I use technical terms, so it becomes difficult for the end consumer to understand, what you are talking about, so please talk in layman terms. So the most interesting thing in these situations, you have to build a team where there are different team members coming from the different domain space. So if I'm the tech background, I should take care about the tech product. And if there are someone who can easily sell the product, who knows the expertise of that one, he should take care of those type of space. So marketing is kind of a difficult me. I'm still struggling, so I'm still learning from the people around me. And then the second thing, every day I think it's a kind of a challenging when you build a product. So if our platform is kind of dependent on different services like social media, so sometimes if you think that we can get some expected output from so and so API, it will be beneficial for our product. So for example, integrating Instagram or the Facebook, it becomes more challenging, because you have to go through compliances with this a Facebook team and then the Instagram team. It might take one day to maybe a kind of a 1 week, so it becomes a blocker for you to ship the product, because now your your product is kind of a dependent on this external APIs and then libraries or whatever it is, So how we can minimize this one? You have to come up with a workaround, or maybe you can come up with kind of an initial step as a not as a automation, but maybe a manual process. In the background, you are writing something in an Excel sheet, or maybe kind of on a paper. It's not a kind of automation. That's okay, but at least something is working. Maybe you are trying to vet an influencer. You can do it on your own rather than implementing some AI, because it might take some time. So ship fast is kind of the best thing. So two most thing, if your product is dependent on an external factor, in my case, yes, it is, it becomes challenging because it becomes blocker for us. And then the second is marketing to sell the product.
I think I have a co-founder who does take care of the sales and marketing part for me, so that makes it easy for me to keep working on the tech side of the things. I would like to mention though, because I have been a co-founder myself at OWOW, and when we were working with our customers, we found out that one of the problems with the startup industry or even the established organizations is finding talent. And I found out that this is a problem to be solved, and we came up with an idea to how to solve that problem for our customers. And in that journey, I found out sometimes the customers have fantastic product building, like they have entire factory working for them, or sometimes they have an entire software ready for them, logic ready for them, and they don't want to implement it in a different fashion. They want to implement it in a faster, newer technology, a faster technology. And sometimes they have the factory laid out, that's working great for them, but they want to incorporate automation, or somewhere a software component needs to be implemented. And that's been an age-old need. I don't think it's a brand new problem area like an AI chatbot or anything, or a AGI, if you will. However, that problem still persists. That problem exists, and that problem will continue to exist. And then we decided, if there's a problem that is always going to exist for the business people, why not address it? Yeah. And that's when OWOW came into being. I think Gangesh has a previous experience with another company that he already built. And then now he's moving on. Now we're in the space for OWOW, and we're building these solutions for our customers, so we can provide them tech talent, we can provide them UX talent, we can provide them business analyst talent. Different types of modules can be implemented for a customer, and we provide a lot of different pricing models as well. So sometimes we can take a contract, sometimes we can simply ship an engineer to their company, and they can work with them directly, so that they don't have to expose their IP product ideas in different layers. They can keep it to themselves. I learned in that process that this communication piece is extremely important. Sometimes you have to wait for 1 hour, 2 hours, listen to the customer very patiently, understand their problems. In the span of 2-hour conversation, I found out that they will release bits and information, and you have to wait until that crucial piece of information comes to you, and you're catching on to it. And this is what you want to solve. This is your pain point, and this is, I think, can be solved as a step one for the problem. And to tell them and to give them an idea that if you implement this in XYZ steps, I think you have a smoother journey towards moving towards automation, if it has to be the case, or finding a solution to your problem at this point.
Yeah.
I did find out that marketing and the sales piece is extremely important. However, I don't have expertise in that, and that is one area that Gangesh is pushing me towards. So we're building this as a podcast we're trying to build right now, and he is also doing a lot of LinkedIn advertisement for us. A lot of other sales teams also reach out to us, but I tell them, I think my sales guy is our co-founder, so we don't have to buy your teams to do the work for us. I think he will manage it, and he will recruit the people he finds the best for his liking.
Yeah.
I think I can stop over here. Maybe Gangesh wants to say something, or maybe Amit, if you have any questions to ask, you can talk, or you want, if there's any topic that you would like to discuss, we can talk about that.
Yeah, I think, maybe one thing, if people are starting about their startup, so they don't have to right away quit their job. Maybe, they can um, start answering the question why they want to start, because it's not that easy. It's a fun, to be more honest, but it becomes challenging, it's sometimes it becomes hard to balance your professional and personal life, because it takes more out of it when building something. So you have to ask yourself, question, why do you want to start? Once you know the answer, you can start building a product. Rather than building a product, before, start knowing your customer, ask them, are they willing to, purchase the product, or maybe, are they going to use that product? And then maybe you can come up with a landing page, kind of a small CTA, join wait list, and provide all the information about your product. So you are educating about your product to your end consumers, so they understand what you are trying to build. And then once you get some traction, you can start building a small tiny features, rather than spending your entire life building a product which you never ship. So you don't have to do that one. So you can easily implement the feature, a tiny feature, that's okay. It's a broken one, that also fine. The end consumer might be at least able to use those features. And once you are in a space where you are gaining a traction, then you can quit your 9 to 5 job and start working on your startup. Yeah.
Great. Gangesh, are we going to take QA questions now?
Yes, you can access it, right?
Yes, I'm able to see it.
Then you can take the QA question. Thank you.
Somebody asked me for Jayesh, Chaitanya Takawikar. I think Takawikar is the right way to say it. But his name is Chaitanya. Says, for Jayesh, as you are from USA, when you started working on your startup, how does the work authorization navigate for you? Are you still an H-1B? Okay, so my case has been a little bit different. I started off as an F1 student, and then I got an H-1B after a while. And then I also got married to a U.S. citizen over here, and then that kind of transferred my status into a green card in the USA. That made life a little bit easier in terms of operating as a CEO of a company or president of a company. So that's how it worked out. However, in our co-founders team, we have one member who is moving from whatever their status is into a, I believe it's an O1 visa. Gangesh could probably speak more about that as well. But there's a possibility that you can transfer your status into a business development, or if you're an entrepreneur, they allow you some category of visa, which you can use to own your own business. So that's fantastic. You're not stuck because you're on H-1B. There are solutions available, and I have seen one solution right in front of me. So think about that. Okay. Amit, maybe you'd like to take another question from the QA session.
Yeah, I think Chaitanya said, I'm learning to make web apps scalable, available, reliable using DevOps, Docker, and Kubernetes. Are this technology in demand? Market is highly competitive. I will be looking. Yeah, I would say yeah. So the people are using, the Docker and Kubernetes. So in PayPal, I have never heard about the Kubernetes, but Docker. So we are using Dockers. So there is absolutely opportunity. And also in the startup world, when I was talking with YC companies, so YC is nothing but an accelerator which based in San Francisco. So if I'm correct, yeah, okay. And so YC companies, mostly they are not using this Docker, so they are more reliable, kind of, a Vercel or maybe Fly.io kind of serverless platform, so we can easily deploy on those one. But I think the big organizations, they make use of this technology. Yeah, but maybe Jayesh, I think you can answer this question as well.
Yes, I do have thouts on this. Now that you mentioned that YC probably don't look into Docker Kubernetes. There are few aspects to this. One is Kubernetes is an expensive service, no matter which cloud provider you go to. And then when we are shipping products into YC, we're looking into exploring an idea and how that idea can be monetized. In the stage of incubator stage, we don't know if the product will be successful or not. So what they're trying to do is they're minimizing the cost of actually building a product by not using Kubernetes. So they're using different solutions. Sometimes it is simply a monolithic architecture type of thing, not microservices, not setting out all the pods in the Kubernetes pods. They can use Docker, because what happens is if you're installing a Docker on an EC2 or some type of virtual machine and then shipping your application on top of that Docker layer, you're good enough by not using Kubernetes service, by not using expensive service, by using Docker, and you're able to contain all the requirements, dependencies of your application, and then ship it out to a single virtual machine, be it EC2 or anything else. So that is one case for startup. However, if you're looking for a large organization job role where you're exploring multiple different technologies, your challenges of the scale are very large, then you will see extensive uses of Kubernetes. And when someone says we are highly scalable in last 5 years or so, people, when they claim we're scalable, they're probably using Kubernetes because it is horizontal scaling. And what happens in that is you're simply allowing multiple machines. You're simply allowing your code to run on multiple machines. And then you're using some type of load balancer, Nginx, or whatever, what have you, that is sending the request on these multiple different pods. So when there's a request influx, high influx to your application, basically the Kubernetes has a service that it will implement. That will implement a logic that says if you are running, if you're using as much X amount of memory and X amount of CPU, I will spin up a next pod for you, next machine for you internally. And then that's the cost barrier for it. Also, simply using this Kubernetes framework that says I will spin up the machines for you is also an expensive service on the cloud. So that's that. But it is very much in demand. It is under DevOps, like you've already identified, Chaitanya. And I will say, even as a startup founder, if you're moving into that area, I think it's really important for you to have that information with you, have some sort of an experience, because what it does allow is you're building an application and your shipping process becomes smooth. So when you're building CI/CD pipelines with these Docker and Kubernetes applications, now your focus is on building your application. Now your focus is on solving the problems for your customers or for yourself, whatever your users are. And you're not engaging 1 hour of bundling things up and pushing it into a machine. So that's one of the things that you can. I mean, not that you cannot do CI/CD pipelines without Docker and Kubernetes. You can. However, this is something that comes in that is very much mixed with the idea of using containers and deploying it on the Kubernetes. Okay. Is there any more question from one of the committee members? What should be considered before leaving a job to build a startup full-time? Simplest answer for that would be is your financial backup.
Yeah.
I think it's the most important thing to have a backup for your 6 months to 1 year, depending on how you currently live. If you're living with a family, you have dependents, then you're looking at a larger timeline to secure if something goes wrong. If you're living by yourself in an apartment and having a roommate, I think it's probably in a best time to explore this area, because nobody else is dependent on you. And if something goes wrong, you're able to start again. If something goes wrong and you have a child, it's a different problem altogether. Something goes wrong and you have a mortgage to pay. If you have a home and you're managing your wife and family, and your wife is also dependent on you, then it's a different problem. However, if you're currently a single person living in an apartment, whether you have a roommate or not, I think it's the best time to explore what can happen if I start a startup at this point. So I would suggest, if I were to go back in time and I had this passion and whatnot about software engineering back then, I would have definitely explored that idea.
Yeah.
Maybe Amit, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think one thing you covered, a financial background, a status. So 6 months of runway, or maybe 1 year of runway. I think that's a good starting point. Also, additionally, you do not have to run behind the VCs, or you maybe accelerator programs. You can seek a fund from grants. You can receive some grants while doing the 9-to-5 jobs. I mean, you do not need kind of a full-time persons, because in 2022 we received grants from Ripple blockchain. I was working as a 9-to-5 job at PayPal, so you do not have to. So you secure some funds so you can extend your runway as well. And once you have a bandwidth, you know that, okay, so we do have a financial background, so now it's the right time, because we are also gaining a traction to the product that we have built, and now it's the right time, so we can quit the 9-to-5 job and start working on your product. So I think this too might be a kind of a key thing as well.
Okay. Question from another community member: what is your advice for an F1 student OPT in the US on finding engineering job, and how should they go about it? I have been an F1 student myself, and best idea I think I would suggest is, I don't know what phase you're in right now, but I would say if you're an F1 student in the last, if let's say most of the people come here on masters, for 2-year course or something, I would suggest in the last 6 months or 9 months of your student status, start working on the profile. Because when you enter in, you don't have enough time. When you enter in a new country, you don't have a lot of time to do many things. But once you settle down for the first 1 year, or maybe 1 year and 2 months or 3 months, then you have time to work on other aspects of the life, which is basically building your portfolio for the job hunt that you'll face in next 9 months. I think I would suggest start solving the LeetCode problems, start solving those, whatever the HackerRank or whatever else you have. That way you're on top of the idea of what is this DSA problems that we're solving. Where it is the core of engineering, but then when you actually enter the job, you're not inverting a binary tree. But before entering, to find a job, you want to solve that. So as people are have different opinions about it, as much people have different opinion about it, this is the current process to go. So might as well prepare for it. So that's one thing you could do. Another thing you could do is there are multiple platforms that are currently offering a easy to build website. So you can build your own website. So if it was Chaitanya, it could be chaitanyak.com or whatever that be. You might have to pay a little bit, maybe $15 or something like that, depending on how you ship that website. But it's an easy tool to have to build your website. And in one additional line in your resume that says, hey, I work on a live project and this is it. It could be simply a front-end application that says, this is my name, this is my past experience and whatnot. But then you have it, and there's a link attached to your GitHub portfolio. So you can do that. Those are some of the things that I would explain right now that you can do. I think people were not doing 10 years ago.
And also one more thing, Jayesh, I can add, so I have no idea much about the United States, job area, but also one thing person can do, try to contribute to the open source, so that might be helpful, it will impact on their profile as well, because I contributed to XYZ open source product. Two things you can gain. One thing is kind of learning opportunity for you, how things work in the open source space, and second thing, it's kind of enhancing your career. So it will also impact on your profile when you're trying to apply for the job. You can easily say that I contributed to XYZ open source product, and it can be easily available. So now you becoming a known person into that community, or maybe a open source community within that project. There might be two things. One thing, if you are looking for a job, you can mention that thing. Or second, if those guys are looking for the maintainer, or maybe a developer, they can easily hire you as a person, as a developer. So kind of a win-win situation.
Another thing you could do is you can always open up oautalents.com and sign up and register there. create your own profile and see if a new job comes your way, because we'll be doing some tests for you, and then based on those tests, we can recommend the jobs. Another last question in the queue. Are there any skills or areas of knowledge you wish you had developed more before starting your startup? Thank you. I think I will let Amit speak on that first.
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I think startup is kind of unknown space. I would say it's kind of unknown path. Every day it's kind of a learning opportunity for you. So there is no skill set that is required, I would say, to start something. Maybe it depends upon what person, or maybe what as a domain expert you are trying to bring to your startup. So being a tech engineer, so I'm not aware of everything, but I'm learning everything every day. So I don't think, there has to be something, before starting something. Maybe, marketing space, marketing skill set that I'm missing. But as I'm learning from, from the folks around me, I think that will be a kind of a bonus point for me. Or maybe I can end up with hiring someone down the line.
I would say marketing and the sales skill is something that a lot of tech engineers do not possess right off the bat, but we can develop those over the course of time. But if you're exploring an idea that you want to start your own startup a few years later, or maybe a few months later, you can start looking into what are the tools that people use for marketing, and each domain will have a different tool that they use. So sometimes people go on Instagram and talk about it. If you're a startup that is doing a local business, I think Instagram is your best help at this point. As much as it isn't help, it is also a problem, because you're at one point trying to develop a solution to a problem, or trying to solve a problem in the community, or running your business, and at the same time you're now burdened with, I have to maintain my Instagram account as well. That kind of sucks, but I will do that. Maybe that will give me some exposure. So those marketing skills are very important. You can find out different solutions to reach out to your audience based on your different niches. So if you're into banking, I think you're talking with a different type of people, versus if you're a local small business, like a shop, if you will, you're a different type of business. So I would explore before starting a product, I would explore if I have at least 1% or 2% of marketing skills. That looks like the end of our question list.
Questions, yeah.